Welcome back to Gears 5.
Hey.
You know, I've made a discovery, guys. For as stupid as the plot of this game is, there's a lot of points where nothing's happening. Like, again, even when we have a full party, there's a severe lack of dialogue between the characters.
That's not just that, Jova. Even when there is dialogue, again, it goes back to my problem with Tom Bissell. He's just not good at coming up with good banter. He's just not good at this. And here's the thing. As we saw in the original trilogy, good character banter is essential to Gears. It's just because, remember, the stories in these games are very simple, so it's up to the characters to carry it through. And banter played a good, strong aspect of that in the original trilogy. And Tom Bissell is just not good at this. He's not.
He's not, like... Is he the lead writer nowadays?
Remember, Jova, for Gears Tactics, he was the quote-unquote supervising writer. Like, he didn't write, but he supervised the writing.
Actually, let me check. It actually sometime has passed, so let me see if Gears Tactics actually has a credited writer.
It does, Teo, because I actually saw the credits myself when I saw the cutscenes on YouTube. Somebody else wrote Teo, but Tom Bissell is credited as a supervisor of the writing. He's the last person that should be supervising the writing of this series, if you ask.
I do wonder though, what's the reputation of the Gears Tactics? Or it's like, I know that those
it's fine.
Definitely more positive than this one. But
it's fine.
Being more of an XCOM clone, it basically you can like it if you like that type of gameplay. Basically,
it's okay.
It's not a third-person shooter, cover-based shooter like these ones.
Let me mention to you the story, because I actually saw the entire.
More so about the story.
Yeah, I saw it entirely on YouTube, Jova. Here's my verdict. It's fine. As far as Gear stories goes, it's perfectly fine. It works well enough. It functions. The characters are enjoyable enough. That's it. It's fine.
Which Gears Tactics game goes into apparently the backstory with Kait's father?
That's the one. It's Gears Tactics, yes.
I thought there was a Gears Tactics 2 or something.
No. Gears Tactics, the one we got in 2018 was the first one. Sorry, 2020, sorry.
And if I recall correctly, it's like the last game that Splash Damage did before being absorbed by whoever bought them. Let me check just to be sure.
So would you say that Kait's dad at least makes a better protagonist there or something?
He does. Don't get me wrong, he's no Marcus Phoenix, but...
I'm really fond of his haircut, but that's just, an appearance thing. For everything else, he's generally fine.
No. Like I said, there's nothing inherently bad about the story and even the writing of Gears Tactics. It's perfectly serviceable. Which after this game is a step up, so I guess I will not look at the horse in the mouth. So
maybe Tom Bissell works better as a story supervisor than the actual writer, because as a story supervisor, all he probably just has to go is like, okay, just make sure that there are these story consistencies or whatnot. Like, I wonder if a supervisor, if he's that kind of supervisor that gets to call the shot, or if he's just a supervisor there to make sure that the writing process is going accordingly.
Well, we know that Gears Tactics was the last project to be produced by Rod Ferguson before he left the Coalition. So Rod Ferguson was still in charge at that time, so he's still the one responsible.
Who knows what they're working on now? Well, who knows what the Coalition is
I'm genuinely believing that Gear 6 is happening just because they want to test out how the Unreal 5 works. The only reason we haven't seen anything until this point is because no company has yet properly started making games using Unreal 5. We already just saw the tech demo.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have to remember that the series is no longer owned by Epic. I can definitely see what you mean in that regard. That said, I'd argue we're getting Gear 6 again mainly because of how the game ends. I won't spoil it to you how it ends, but...
Oh, that too, but again, just to have a title with a new engine and probably for the new system. To capitalize on the new system.
Oh no, sure, that makes sense. Remember, the original reason that this franchise was even greenlit to begin with is because Epic wanted to showcase what the Unreal Engine 3 could do. So, the Unreal Engine...
Did you guys hear about the Gears Funko Pop game shutting down?
Yes.
Yes, that was a news for a lot of months ago, and like he mentioned when it was announced, it's a project that baffles me why it even was made. So having it actually be pulled out is only nothing but a good reason. So.
Because we want to cash in on the mobile casual audiences too.
Not even that. Why Funko Pop? Why not a standard gacha type of title?
I don't know what to tell you.
Because Funko Pops is popular.
Yeah.
Dez, allow me to sum up the basic reaction most people had to that news. Nothing of value was lost. Look,
basically.
Seriously, yeah, Funko Pop may be popular, but it's not necessarily popular for gaming. Like, it didn't attract the Funko Pop audience. It didn't attract the Gears audience. You really do have to wonder who that was for.
I actually do know a Gears of War fan.
The World of Final Fantasy audience.
I actually...
Yeah, Pedro.
I actually do know a Gears of War fan who was genuinely turned off by its very existence, saying that I just don't know. Like, to me, Gears, and this is his words, not mine. To me, Gears of War has always been a very dark, foreboding type, and he's referencing the original trilogy when he says this, of course. To me, Gears of War has always been a dark, foreboding type of game with that kind of atmosphere, and I just don't think it fits the series to have something like that, which I can understand his point of view. And yes, I get that it's a spin-off, but at the same time, I can understand his point of view.
No, I agree, but that kind of concept just wasn't born to work with something like Gears.
Like, okay, look. Something like Higurashi, that has both dark and light moments. So you can get why there'd be something like Higurashi Kira, which goes for more the daily slice of life and happy-go-lucky stuff.
Yeah, the problem, Joe, with that is that it goes a bit way too overboard with that. And a lot of times it crosses into the uncomfortable.
I will say...
Oh, yes, it does. What I'm saying is that Higurashi has more leeway to have something like a Chibi-esque or hell, even a Funko Pop-esque spin-off here. Gears really has nothing lending itself to that. Like, there's literally nothing in it that goes for a more comedic bit. Like, hell, even with something like Resident Evil arguably has a silly side, so that, okay, you could see there being a more cutesy-esque thing here and there. Hence why Jill and Nemesis once cameoed in that very cartoony game, something aliens or whatnot. But Gears has always been more geared towards serious stuff. That's not to say that it hasn't had lighter moments, or heck, even comedy, but there's really nothing lending to it having a
So you'd be actually annoyed if Gears of War got into Fortnite.
Well, let me put it this way, Dej. Here's the thing. It's not so much that Gears of War cannot have comedy. It can and it should. It's more so that the Funko Pop stuff is the wrong kind of comedy. You know, like, not every kind of comedy automatically works with every franchise. However, to be fair, to give credit where credit is due, I will say that I think that the Funko Pops they made of Ni no Kuni 2 actually is a good pick, because Ni no Kuni 2 even has chibi models for the world map and everything. So that's actually one of those games that where it actually does make sense to have Funko Pop stuff.
Okay. Let me put it like this: the idea of there being Funko Pop toys of these characters, I'm fine with. Like, Funko Pop is pretty much just the we will touch everything on the world sort of toy line or whatnot. But wasting money on a game for it is just...
I'm not into...
No,
I'm not personally into Funko Pop. My brother is, but I'm not. But I saw the Funko Pops they made for Evan, Roland, and Tani, and they look pretty cute. Like, so and again, for this game, it actually does make sense to have that, because cutesy stuff has always been a part of that franchise to begin with anyway. So...
But seriously though, making a game of Funko Pop is just... Look, unless you're making a mass-wide crossover, don't. Like, Funko Pop are something that are fun to collect. That's pretty much it. Nobody is really asking for a video game of them because, well, it's essentially just the characters, but looking ugly.
I mean, you could say the same thing about Lego to some extent, though.
Well, okay.
I will argue Lego is way more wider appeal.
Yeah, but at the same time, you can't tell me that they're not allowed to branch off into trying something different.
Oh, no.
Allow me, Dej. Much like the difference between Lego and Funko Pop is that Lego manages to be customizable in whatever way you want, while Funkos are static, rigid, and a lot of times lack details. The video game equivalent also applies.
Let me put it this way, Dej.
wait, hold on, if I may.
Go ahead.
For comparison, with Lego, not only are the moves you have customizable, but you can practically create new characters, both in-game and with actual toys, by literally customizing them. Lego leads to
I'm talking about strictly from the Lego games, considering that, you know, most of the games that they release are based off established IP.
But yeah, that is my point though. With Lego games do give you the sense that you're playing as the characters, but as Lego. Funko Pop, like Tio mentioned, is a lot more rigid. Like, not just in that, but it would legit just be, oh, super deformed character stuff. There's not really any guaranteed comedy from it, because normally Funko Pop is just played straight here and there. Lego goes full out and beyond to the point where it also can make rather mundane things from the source material come off as much more fun bits here and there.
Not just that, Edge, but at the same time, here's one of those things. Yes, like you yourself said, yes, of course, it's perfectly allowed for a franchise to branch out and try something different. But at the same time, there is such a thing as an idea that doesn't work, and I will argue that this is one of them.
Yeah, I'm just saying I'm talking about in terms of principle, not in terms of.
Oh, sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
When I speak about Funko Pop, it's mainly about Funko Pop in that regard. Again, Funko Pop are fine enough as a toy that you collect, but anything else is kind of
I can give you an example, Dej, from one of our playthroughs. Making a cover-based shooter without a cover system. That's just a bad idea, plain and simple.
Okay. Well, I was
it's like making a platformer without a jumping ability.
Snake pass. That's it.
I don't know what that is.
The game done by Sumo Digital, Pedro. Yeah. He's talking about the example that you made about not having a jump button is still working.
Okay. Okay, fine. I'll stick with my Quantum Break example though. Like making a cover-based shooter without a cover system, at least to me, that makes no sense. Like that's just like. Okay, there's trying different things, and then there's just, what the fuck are you even doing? Like, there is such a thing as a bad idea.
It's like making a racer/kart driver without proper acceleration. No, wait, Fast and Furious Crossroads.
You played it?
Joe, I thought you were gonna say Turbo Super Stunt Squad or something.
Just because Teo even mentioned this in our something in our Fair Friends playthrough. Just because you can do something doesn't necessarily mean you should.
So anyway, back to just walking about here. Like again, one thing that the Gears trilogy did expertly was masking the fact that a lot of what you were doing was walking and running, by having a lot of good stuff here and there. This is a bit of a problem with this game here. Some of the levels go on for way too long.
Yeah.
Not just that. It's pretty clear that for this particular level we wanted to emphasize also how big and, you know, spacious and full of detail the hangar is.
No, that's the thing.
Some levels do it better than other in this game, but okay, let's compare this to something like the hospital facility, well, you know, the facility that we revisited, but that's done in Gears 2. The pacing is remarkable in how it edges up the horror elements, while also giving you plenty of chat sessions with Niles here and there, slowly but surely unnerving you and building up the tension. Whereas with this game, a lot of the areas are just staring at stuff, and again, you could have used these to build up war, but they don't.
Okay, we'll say this, that I don't know, the game is not over yet about anything, but compared to also Gears 4, the horror elements have also, like, lowered down significantly. When a game tries to pull up more horror uncomfortable theme, it's more like in, you know, things that it talks about, which is fine. It's just that it's not anymore about, like, say, going through what they did with 4, going through a tense moment with body horror and stuff. So far it's much more, you know, straightforward, which I don't think it's like that complete big of a loss, but it was something that was present in the previous chapters in some kind of way. Okay, Judgment probably did not have much of it, I will admit, aside from the Aftermath campaign, but like you said, I counted more that towards Gears 3 rather than, you know, Judgment itself.
There's also
You do raise a good point, though. Like, well, I mean, for all its faults, Gears 4 did have that body horror with people getting turned into locusts,
including Marcus himself. Again, I genuinely believe that one could count among the rest of the.
Oh no! It's fine. I personally think the original trilogy's body horror was better, but I will grant you that. This game, on the other hand, no. At this point, the horror element is pretty much gone.
Well, there is potential stuff to work with you know, Kait's dilemma about the Locust and the way their mind corruption works. I will admit that there is stuff that can be worked with here, but so far we haven't done that much about it.
No, not really.
Now,
There's also...
okay. Did you want to go first?
Sure. No, not just that, but going back to the area that is like, yes, like you yourself said, yes, it is a nice color contrast to do with the red sand and all that stuff with the desert and shit like that, but at the same time, it kind of stays overshadowed as well, in the sense that, like, it doesn't have the same, while it does have a nice novelty to it, it doesn't have the same great presence that something like from the original show will have. Whereas let's take, for example, the Riftworm. The Riftworm sequence is technically a less because of being a 360 game, is technically less on a graphical fidelity, but it's far more memorable even in visual terms compared to something like this.
While I agree on that, I will also say that one of my complaints of Gears 2 is that you spend way too much time also in the locales, which are not really that, you know, aside from Return, really that interesting to look at, particularly the underground caves of the Locusts. So there is that too.
Sure, I'll give you that.
I would argue still that Gears 2 had better pacing in that regard.
Yeah.
Well, that is a different thing entirely.
Sure. It's one of those things where, like, while not every area was a winner, the game was so well paced that it was a point where you never got to a point where just flat sick and tired of in one area. Whereas in this game, because they make the area so large and go on, it becomes much easier for you to get tired of the environment. Go ahead, Jova.
Not only that, but I'd argue that we didn't really notice it during our playthrough that they weren't that great because, and you know what, to be fair also, older game, less technology that they had to work with, so you could argue it's a bit of a product of its time in that regard, and it would probably get fixed with a remake or remaster. Like, you know, with that game, I can excuse it as being limitations of the technology these days. This game, though, this game is at the very least 8th gen video game technology. Like, they could have done better.
It's most of the pacing. Like if the pacing was better, this would just be an average area visually from a visual term. It's just that because it takes so long, it's kind of like with the ice. Well, okay, the ice area from Act 2 is a bit easier on the eyes because it has that bluish.
Okay, if it's strictly on a color preference, I kind of prefer the red of the desert compared to the blue of the azure and white of the ice.
Sure. Well, that's
I have a question.
That's
for you.
personal preference.
That's personal preference. Yeah.
I have a question for you then.
Go ahead. Or
actually, all of you can join in and pitch. Since you're confident that this team shouldn't be working on Gears, who do you, out of all the dozens of studios that Microsoft has purchased causing antitrust funds, who do you think should be the franchise?
Obsidian.
Well, hold on too. Obsidian makes RPGs. Not.
Wait. Let's go. He has something to say.
I got one. Ninja Theory.
Go.
I can see that.
All right. So anyone else? We're ignoring that.
Yeah.
Ninja Theory specializes in a strictly action-based game, and I mean action as in specializing in CQC, non-actual shooters. And remember, very CQC.
They did Bleeding Edge.
Hold on. Let Theo finish. Go ahead, Theo.
No, I get the joke also that Dejimon said, but again, sure, they did Bleeding Edge, but again, they mostly specialize with stuff like, again, Hellblade, Heavenly Sword, enslaved Odyssey to the west, and so on. Obsidian has done stuff like, say, Alpha Protocol, which, aside from the buggy mess that it is, it manages to combine the typical RPG status skill tree with a decent shooter, per-person shooter. So,
I guess.
Wow.
Applying that kind of concept to this, strictly for single-player, though, they cannot work for something multiplayer to save their lives. So,
How about Bethesda?
you have to be more specific. Okay, id Software maybe can do something about it, I guess.
Oh no, trust me. Based on what I've seen, no. If the current Doom developers made a Gears game, I would be incredibly interested.
They're more for first person, so they're probably more pitched towards Halo than Gears.
That's actually what I was going to ask. I do wonder if it would be able to make the conversion to third-person shooter. That said, though, Tia, what you mentioned is like, how cool would it be if it take the range for Halo from 343, who have kind of been doing their crap job anyway.
I wouldn't mind, to be honest. Like, again, it's just, okay, for fixing the plot, it's still a matter of finding the right writer, because if you remember, Doom Eternal did suffer a bit of plot stagnation, in a sense that plot inflation, because it bloated a bit too much, and as a result it fucked up a bit the lore that was being established until that point. Not in a sense that it's completely bad and it ruins everything, but in a sense that some things do overstay their welcome and could have been easily trimmed out. So it's just a matter of finding out a good writer, but strictly for gameplay purposes, sure. The thing is that Gears is always been this more slow and methodical game. Well, the new Doom games are always frantic, and acrobatic, you jumping around and shit, finding the right angle. Gears is more methodical. Find the right place, cover up, find the weak spot of the enemy, and pump lead there.
Not to basically, Deji, here's the basic storyline, a timeline for that you need to know. After Gears of War 3, the creator of this franchise, Cliff Bleszinski, left Epic Games along with a lot of the original team because he was done. He envisioned Gears 3 as the end of the storyline, which it was, and it should have remained like that. However, when Microsoft bought the franchise in 2014, they specifically created from the ground up the Coalition as a studio to continue this franchise. This studio is literally this studio is literally an
505 games, basically.
This studio is literally
343 games.
Yeah, whatever, you know what.
Yes, Pedro?
343 Industries, I think that's the name you're looking for, Dej. Yes, because that's the same thing with Halo, yes. This studio was created specifically for the purpose of continuing Gears. They're literally an IP factory. They're not really a studio that has... They were made specifically for the purpose of pumping out Gears. Same thing with 343 Industries. Yes, Shiroi? Well, Jova said that you had something to say.
Something?
No.
Oh, okay.
I already said what I wanted to. It's fine.
Go ahead, Teo.
Pedro, for another example, Obsidian also did Fallout New Vegas, which while it had RPG elements, it was still part of their core. It still managed to function also as a shooter.
I guess, sure.
A first-person one, but still. So they do have some degree of experience that they could apply here. And like I said, RPG progression tech tree is, for me, what the natural evolution of this kind of gameplay should be. So why not?
Again, I just wonder if they would be able to make the jump from first person to third person.
Oh, unless they do work strictly in third person.
The primary issue at hand, and the best way I can describe it, is that Gears of War, the franchise itself, lost its, and I mean this figuratively, lost its balls. Because the original trilogy, for lack of a more elegant term, had balls, figuratively speaking. It had the balls to pull out some really cool horror-like imagery that gave the franchise its own unique identity among cover-based shooters.
I think.
Go ahead.
It may not just be a case of it losing its balls, but I feel like it's trying to focus a little too much on the action sense. Now, again, that is not to say that action is bad in this, but it's sort of a similar problem with Resident Evil games. Well, okay, more so Resident Evil 6, because up until Resident Evil 6, there still felt like there was enough of a balance between horror and action. Sure, 4 and 5 were pushing it, but it never got to the point where it felt just more like a military game co-starring zombies. Resident Evil 6 didn't even have zombies, really. They were just more so
Also,
mind-controlled Javieros.
it also, like I mentioned, it also had, you know, an idea of being way too overexciting how, you know, the hype of the action was supposed to be structured.
Not only that, like, Resident Evil 6 was trying to pull out all the stops without putting in the legwork here. Like, they thought, hey, you guys like Nemesis? Well, let's put in this guy who's totally cooler and tougher to bringing down the Nemesis.
Also,
and
hey, you like that
nobody really remembered him.
You like that sequence at the end of 5 where Chris punches a boulder repeatedly? Let's do something similar to that for the entire game. Hey,
guys, you liked how Leon ran from a boulder, right? Well, let's have him also run from a complete cave-in avalanche. So
what you're saying is they tried to make it the Fast and Furious of Resident Evil.
Kinda. Yeah, to me, it's kind of like that evolution, jumping, not necessarily jumping the shark, but trying to losing its own identity as a result.
Where am I going with this? What I mean is, like, I do wonder if it's not so much a case of Gears losing its balls, but more so placing the focus on the wrong thing. Like, again, it's good that you have action in a Gears game. Absolutely. It's integral. But I do wonder if they tried to focus on that more than the horror elements. Like, I do wonder if what they were trying to do wasn't necessarily trying to sanitize stuff because, you know, they thought people wouldn't be able to handle the horror. I'm beginning to wonder if they're just trying to focus this more and more in whatever weird agenda they have going on.
So it was more Alien versus Aliens?
Honestly, the only reason I can see for this game being PEGI 18 is because of the swearing. If it wasn't for the
chopping enemies up,
we do see mutilated bodies.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. Actually, I forgot about that.
It's just like I said though. In this game, it seems cartoony because instead of the careful way that they set up the gore, the way you would saw enemies in different directions and whatnot, here they just explode into blocky chunks, so it's like something out of a Looney Tunes cartoon.
Basically, another interesting detail from the original trilogy is that it had realistic gore. What I mean when I say that is that the body's exploding. JD, what's happening to you? Oh, okay.
JD, man, I know your life has been going down some tough avenues here, but
I tried so hard and got so far.
Well, while he fixes himself,
yeah. Now, just to finish real quickly. God, I lost my train of thought. God damn it, JD, you made me lose my train of thought.
It's all JD's problem. You can't take responsibility to your own. JD always has to be the fall guy.
Yeah, JD is the next one confirmed. See you for the next one.
Well, this game likes to shit on JD, so I guess at this point might as well. See ya.
See you next time.